I think it's when you release something that isn't going to be what people want to begin with, like it's not fully complete. I think I'll immediately open yourself up to a raft of criticism. But I would say that is a beautiful thing because it really shows you that people are looking at it, they're trying it out, they're taking it for a ride. And so I would say, it's just about getting over the mentality around that being like a bad thing, right?
This is Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio, and I am your host, Tyler Jorgenson. And today we get to talk with and interview a founder who has made some pretty big impact in the software, SaaS, and marketing space. And I'm so excited because I know this person in real life and have been so impressed with what Shaun and his team have built and who they are as people. So Shaun Clark from HighLevel, welcome out to Biz Ninja Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So obviously, a lot of people know HighLevel now, right? You guys are growing. You're at a really big growth point.
I have no idea, but I hope so.
Yeah, I think so, from my world and my perspective. But I want to start by zooming way back, right?
Sure.
So HighLevel is not your first software thing, and it's not your first venture. When was the moment that you realized you were an entrepreneur?
Oh gosh, high school. I think I started my first sort of website kind of server business thing in high school. So I mean, I don't know that I knew at the time that it was called being an entrepreneur. I just thought it was cool to run my own thing. And I think it's just hard to get a job when you're, 15 or something, right? So it was like, how can I make money? So I guess that was how that happened.
But see, I don't think that's normal. I think the average kid would think, step one, ask parents. Step two, get a job, not create something. And so I think that's what sets you apart. What was the first big business that you built? And we'll go.
There. Well, I built an answering service with another co-founder out of college. He was much older than me, but we basically over 12 years built what turned out to be a very large, basically inbound answering service. We're answering phone calls for all kinds of different small businesses, about 5,000 nationwide. And we wrote all our own tech, which is how I kind of got involved. And it was a pretty random start to a business, but it was a lot of fun because it got really, really big. And I love that we were helping small businesses. So that was my first bigger venture for sure.
So you're in that for 12 years. You started right out of college. You had a partner who was a little older, maybe therefore more experienced. What did you learn from that experience about partnerships and about making partnerships work?
Yeah. So your partner is everything. And I think knowing, I think the idea of like where you want to stand in that partnership is really important. And then where and how you see that partnership ending, actually. I think almost figuring out the end at the beginning is almost the most important thing.
Interesting.
And I think that's a critical thing that people often gloss over.
All the time. Most people go into partnerships just in the honeymoon phase of excitement, of opportunity, not thinking.
Me too. So I get it. I totally understand that. But my biggest piece of advice would be like, just figure out where you think it's going to end. And you might not know that out of the gate, but even if you don't know, just imagine what if tomorrow's that day? What does your agreement look like? What are the terms of separation? What do you get to keep? What do they get to keep? And how is that all going to get structured? And, really doing that up front is critical.
Yeah, big time. That's really good advice. And I've asked this question a lot on the show about advice for partnerships, and that you're the first person that said to think about how it ends and then kind of work backwards. I think that's a really, really interesting perspective to take on it. Now, in HighLevel, you have partners again. So first, give us kind of how HighLevel even came about. How did you start it? How did you decide this is what you're going to build? And then go into how you picked, how the partners found each other.
Yeah. So I picked it because I was running another SaaS business and it got acquired, and I really wanted to continue to serve a similar population of customers. And I had the fortune of working with many of them and coming to understand some of their problems. And I thought, this would be a really good opportunity to do something even bigger. And so I knew I couldn't do that on my own. And so the first thing I thought of is, well, what role do I think I'm good at? Like, what are my strengths, but what are my weaknesses, and who do I think can help me with those? And so that was kind of my start there. And I picked somebody, in my case, who was the best software engineer that I'd ever known in my whole life. And, it took me some time to get him to come on board, which I think is actually really positive. It showed that he was busy, and he was off doing important things for him. And so I had to wait him out about a year, but I finally snagged him. And then from there we got started. And honestly, our third partner really almost just fell into our lap. He started who had his own business, who had a co-customer with ours in common. And we were able to connect. And I think what was great about that is the other guy could say, well, I've known him for years and this and that. But the other guy, I got a chance to get to know him through a lot of self-sacrifice, without any promises, without any upfront commitments, those kinds of things, for many years, actually. And so it got to the point where it's almost like embarrassing. Like, I can't believe we haven't made this guy a partner yet. And so I think that was awesome for us, because had he turned out to be, not the nice guy he said he was, we would have learned early on. So I think for us, that was a huge benefit.
It's interesting that the three founders or three partners, you didn't rush into any of those, right? Each of those were important enough to really take time. And I think sometimes people jump into a partnership, miss some due diligence, miss some dating.
Yeah, and I get why people will do that. Sometimes it feels like you have to create an incentive because, why would I do this? Why do I take this risk, this and that? But I think if you don't really know someone, if you're going to you just have to create a model where you sort of have, I think of it in two ways. And so I even did this with actually both of my partners. Even though I knew them and I felt like I could trust them, we had very explicit agreements. We had breakup agreements right out of the get-go. And, I gave them X amount of ownership. I told them if they ever wanted to get out, I told them how they could get out, what it would be worth, how they would get paid out over what period. And, I'm not a lawyer. I just put it on a one pager, but I really wanted to make it clear, because I'd been in the opposite role. I'd been in the position where I felt like I was a partner. I put a lot of time and effort, and I felt very stuck. And I never wanted to do that to them. So again, back to how it's going to end, I wanted to give that to them up front. And then I made it so that they could leave and I could ask them to leave at any point. And it was going to be easier. It wouldn't be easy, but there was already a path. And I think that was really important. I lucked out. I got two amazing partners, and we've never had to do any of that stuff. And I don't think we ever will. But I think it's easy to make that mistake. And if you feel like you have to have a partner up front, again, just have that exit clause.
I think if you can't have those hard conversations about the exit, you shouldn't be getting into the entrance, right? So,
agreed, 100%.
Yeah,
100%. Because you're going to have bad times in any relationship, and it's kind of knowing how do people act or behave in those moments that really define who they are.
For sure. How has your guys' vision for HighLevel changed from when you started until now?
Yeah, I think really we've been very customer driven since the beginning. And I think what's cool about that is our customers has helped. We've really just learned to play up. Our customers, initially we sort of said, look, we're going to serve this little microcosm of customers. And I think that was the right place for us to start. But over time, our customers helped us expand that vision and say, actually, I think we can serve pretty much every small business in the world. So it's definitely broadened quite a bit, but I'm so happy that it started where it did, because again, had we tried to do this out of the gate, I don't think we would have had the idea of how to do that conceivably in a real way. And I think we would have wasted a lot of time and efforts and probably not gotten to where we were. And sort of thinking back, had we only stayed in that little microcosm, I still think we would have made a really cool impact and had a lot of fun doing it.
For sure. One thing that has impressed me the most about you and your team is you do not hide from criticism. If there is, you are wide open on feedback, on wish lists, on feature development, on where you're at. And it's such a, almost like an inclusive, you include the community in what's going on and where you're at, but you also then deploy insane resources to making these things happen. How do you, are you just impervious to criticism, or how do you handle criticism in a healthy way?
Oh, I think I don't. I don't know that I do. I think I'm really bad at it. It's super painful, actually. Personally, I'm not that. I'm almost the opposite type of person to have this type of scenario. But I think I just think that it's so important. it's worth sort of taking the hits. And, I have a big team now, and I have a lot of other people who probably take criticism a lot better than me. But I definitely think it's important to be connected with your customer. And I think, I just try to remind myself when people say really mean, nasty things, they're really trying to say something other than what they're saying. They're trying to say like, I want you to pay attention to me, or I need help. And I'm just having trouble, saying it in a positive way, And so, but yeah, it definitely, it can definitely ruin your day if somebody, something you've worked on really hard, someone stomps all over it and says you're a horrible person for even trying. But I think, you just have to hang in there and see the greater good behind it. But I do think, if you try to hide behind it, what you will miss out on are all of the wonderful people who will come and say, hey, I want to help. I want to contribute in a positive, meaningful way that isn't personal and isn't mean.
Right.
And there are way more of those people in the world. And I think if you are open to that and you go that direction, there's a big benefit on the other side to you, which is they'll respond in kind. They'll support you. They'll help drive you out into the world. They'll really collaborate with you in such a meaningful, positive way that it's worth the occasional, slap in the face.
Yeah. And I think that's what I've seen in you is that you don't like criticism, but you care so much about the community, you're willing to take the discomfort of it so that you can actually make improvements. Exactly. You mentioned you have a big team now. I would love just kind of a 10-second state of the union. How big is the team now? Where are you guys at in users? A quick update of HighLevel.
Yeah, sure. We're about 800 people now. We've got millions of users today. I think 2 or 3 million. I'm losing count. But all of it is the same model as we started with, which is really working with our customers to empower them to put the product out into the world and helping them build businesses. And so that's what I'm most proud of, is that I don't think the model has fundamentally changed since inception. And so it's a very cool thing to watch.
What feature or part of the business excites you the most?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we serve such a variety of people. So, and I'm kind of a feature nerd. So I would say everything excites me the most. But I think what really excites me is that, again, we've been able to help so many people in so many different areas build businesses and change their lives in meaningful ways. And I've seen it on the high end, like I was already a superstar and now I'm a 10X superstar. And that's cool, but those people are already kind of winning. I like the people who are like, I was living in my car last week and I'm not anymore. Those stories are always the coolest, and everything in between. So I guess the fact that we're continuing to build features, for me, it could be ad publishing, or it could be, it could be custom objects. It could be the brand new community stuff we're working on. But all of those, some people, it's funny, they'll look at a feature and they'll be like, I don't get it. And then the next person will be like, that's the greatest feature ever. Yeah. And so I've just gotten used to that. But it's the fact that we're helping people, achieve these great outcomes. That's what matters.
Big time. Yeah, I think one of the challenges of having so many features is that the learning curve for an average person to understand all of them is very steep. But you don't have to know all of it. You just have to.
Yes, that's exactly what we say. Please, for gosh sakes, don't try. It's not. That's not the goal here.
No, become great at a couple of those features and learn enough to build a business around, right? And so, what entrepreneurs or businesses do you look up to as models and inspiration for what you're creating?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm kind of weird like that. So I always sort of think, who are the people that have been playing their game for a really long time? Because I think longevity is really the best way to judge someone by. And so as a result, I would say the businesses they run are probably less oh gosh, I should learn what their tactics or strategy is. Right. I think it's more of what are their rules that they play by, or what are their morals or ethics. And so I'm a big Warren Buffett guy. I've gone to Omaha, Nebraska to see him 8-9 years in a row now. And I think and again, I think it's those businesses, the leaders who run a lot of them as well, just people who've been doing these things for a really, really long time. And again, also people who do the same thing when when they were young and when they were old, because you can do a lot of things when you're young that you're not able to continue when you're old. And so if you can, it also again speaks to the fact that there's a lot of longevity there. So I think those types of folks are my heroes.
Absolutely. I can see that in you. You seem like someone who just has a long time horizon. You see, a lot of entrepreneurs are very good at seeing a vision within of the month or the year, but it seems like you play in bigger chunks of time.
Well, I find that if you can, my co-founder actually recently gave a speech on this. I'm sure he's way more eloquent, but I sort of think that if you play the long game and set yourself up that way, you're less likely to make choices in the moment that are going to get you killed. I think being able to make mistakes is super important, and you should make a lot of them because it'll allow you to try many things. But if you sort of realize you're in it for the long term, you're going to make mistakes that won't get you killed. And that's the most important way to do it. So make a lot of mistakes that aren't going to get you killed, and so I guess playing the long game is where it's at. Well, I think when it comes to that, and you get into principles like margin of safety and things that I think are really simple ways that people can sort of create buffers that give them a lot of safety. So it allows you to kind of drive hard without, feeling like, oh my gosh, I could drive right off the cliff and be done. For me, that's how I think.
Yeah. And so there's 2 points I really want to hit on, and I want to dive a little deeper into that, the attitude towards mistakes and attitude towards failure. And I think part of your guys' idea of being willing to release the skateboard version of things long before the car is ready shows such a healthy relationship to not being stressed about perfection and instead being focused on progress. What was one of the biggest mistakes or stumbling blocks that you've faced so far, and how'd you overcome it?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I mean, I guess, releasing the skateboard model has always been the way we play, and maybe it's just because that's the people we are. I think it's when you release something that isn't going to be what people want to begin with, like it's not fully complete. I think I'll immediately open yourself up to, a raft of criticism. But I would say that is a beautiful thing because it really shows you that people are looking at it, they're trying it out, they're taking it for a ride. And so I would say, it's just about getting over the mentality around that being like a bad thing, right? I think once you understand that, by not waiting forever to release the thing that, and to get the feedback, even though, by releasing it, you're going to get negative feedback as well as positive. I think it's such a freeing experience. And especially once you do it a lot, people sort of get with the program and they're a little less critical. Like they sort of focus on things that are more useful and meaningful. And then you're able to take those in and actually turn them around and make that skateboard into the bicycle and the scooter and the motorcycle and eventually the car. And so it's, I would say the biggest stumbling block is just making sure you do that in your organization, regardless of size, honestly, even regardless of, like, we do it a lot in software and product, but I think it's also just as important to do it in HR or in hiring or in whatever, just because I think it allows you to move faster, be more agile, and honestly get to the right solutions faster.
When I have found that people I'm working with, if they get stuck and they're so scared to not publish something or to put something out in the world, I'm like, just call it a beta, right? It's like call it a skateboard. If you call it a skateboard, you're admitting before the criticism comes, that it's flawed and incomplete. And it's amazing how that one shift can allow people to start publishing and start putting it out there. So you guys teach that framework of bike to skate, scooter, skateboard, and it allows people to then see what you're releasing in that framework. I think if it wasn't intentional, it was brilliant.
Like everything else, I steal my best ideas from others, and I stole that one from some programmer blog, and it fit well with what we were already doing, but it really helped us visualize how we think about it. And again, honestly, the other thing I've noticed is that if there is no such thing as perfection. Right. And I think that when people, every business is different. I always say I'm happy that we're not in heart surgery or we don't make airplanes, right? You can't skateboard those quite as well. But I would say that when you're not, there's no such thing as perfection. Even people who really think they have an idea of what perfection looks like. I think this is the problem, is that we sort of try to sort of project into the future what we think perfection looks like. Yeah. And then even if we hit our projection, which almost never happens, it's still imperfect. And it's because we're just sort of dreaming. Our brains are great that way. We have this capacity to sort of think of the future, but the future is never exactly the way we think it is. And so I think that's why when you really try to look at the trade-off, expediency to market is really going to get you the more value, because you want that feedback one way or another. So the sooner you can get it, I think the better. And so you gotta balance those two, but I like going sooner rather than later.
And I think that's why you guys have been able to grow so quickly, is that the healthy relationship towards feedback, instead of looking at it as feedback instead of failure, is huge.
Totally.
So you mentioned earlier, like obviously the platform with this many users and the number of people that are creating their SaaS on your platform is just, it's huge. And there are case studies and success stories and all these things. It can be overwhelming for someone just getting started. That guy who's still living in the car, right?
Yeah.
When a lot of your time is spent, you speak to everyone in the community, which I have so much respect for, even if they're in the jet or they're in their car, right? What's your advice for the person who is just trying to get started, that wants to use the platform as a way to change the finances of their life?
Yeah, I mean now it's great. There's a help article. It's, if you just go to help.gohighlevel.com and search BNI or Chamber of Commerce or whatever, there's a whole video and a Canva presentation. We try to break it down and really easy. And because what we realized over time is, like, we're not coaches, like that's not necessarily our thing. But at the same time, we've just realized there are some very simple things you can do. And it's literally just about going out and showing all the people around you in a meaningful way, all the value that they're missing in their business. And I think if you try to give before you take, if you try to show people, hey, look, do you realize people call you every day and you miss those phone calls, but there's an easy way to capture them and turn them into customers, like super simple stuff. You can make people a lot of money without costing them a lot of money, and at the same time, you're just showing a lot of value, and they're going to recognize you for that value. And then they're going to come running up to you and say, hey, take my money. Here's my credit card. How can I buy this thing? So it's a super boring model. That's what I love about it the most. But it just consistently makes money because it helps people. And so, so that is exactly what I would say. Go to the help docs and literally search BNI, and you can't miss the help document, the video, and the Canva presentation that goes with it.
It's huge. And I think, they say do the unscalable things first. And I think that's a perfect example. You can't scale going to local BNI groups, but you can start there. And you can make a big change pretty fast.
100%.
Let's say you have 800 people on the team. You have an amazing development team, amazing affiliate team. You have, customer manager, all these things. Let's say you had unlimited resources, and all of a sudden, everyone on your team was able to work at 100% capacity. What is the one feature you would say you wanted to get to the market next?
Ooh, that is a good one. I really think all the stuff we're doing around AI is pretty incredible. And, we have an alpha right now of voice AI. And so I think voice AI will be very, very cool. I think it is still early days, even outside of us, like best in class voice AI is still in early days. I see a lot of really great positives there as we're seeing, the ability to reduce the lag from the voice to text and text to voice back and forth. So I would say getting out a really killer voice AI would be really amazing to see. And I think we'll still do that next quarter anyways, but I'm still excited about it.
Yeah, you guys are still moving fast. Even if I try to take off
that's right.
Take off the brakes, like it doesn't change that much. So let's, to me, business is only part of life, right? And I know you've got other things going on in your life. If we're building businesses, but not also building our lifestyle, I feel like we're missing something. What is one item on your personal bucket list that you're going to accomplish in the next 12 months?
I'm working on my pilot's license.
Awesome. How's that going?
Good. I have 2 lessons in, so I'm just.
That's huge. So many people say they're going to do it and don't take the first lesson, and you're already 2 in.
Yeah. So, but it's been a long time in coming, and I'm only doing it once a week. So I'm not up to where I should be, but it's like you said, it's a start. So I'm excited.
That's really cool. And then is your end goal eventually like pilot your own plane and have the freedom to move around?
I do a lot of travel for business, and it would be cool if I could go to I'm not going to be flying around in some jet or anything, but I just I think if I could fly a little propeller plane to some of the events locally that I attend, that would be super cool to me.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Well, once you get your license, we'll have an event like right by my place.
Yeah, exactly.
We got a great airport here. Awesome. So really, really appreciate Shaun you coming on and sharing all of these lessons and stories with the world. Encourage everyone to please go check out gohighlevel.com. I will actually, of course, be sharing my affiliate link for that. And then check out Shaun. He's incredibly active on social media. So go find him in all those places. But my Biz Ninjas, wherever you're tuning in, listening, watching, it's your turn to go out and do something.